You voted, and here's the results of last week's episode.
Hey guys, this is Rick.
And this is... you know what, man? I think it's getting a little stale in here.
Yeah, I'm starting to feel a little claustrophobic.
You know, I think a little bit of fresh air would do us some good.
You know what? I am way ahead of you.
Well, now that we have a change of scenery, let's switch things up a bit. Welcome to part 1 of our new 3-part series.
That's right, we are going off-road and taking the beaten path and bringing you along with us as we travel El Fuego and check out some of the dark web's most nightmarish tales.
And since we're taking this departure together, we ask that you just listen.
For there may not be concrete truth behind every story. We know that where there is smoke, there is fire.
So here we are, the great outdoors, lit by a warm yet isolating firelight.
The perfect setting for sharing spooky stories, and maybe a s'more.
For our stories, we've enlisted the help of some online talent to help bring them to life.
So sit back, get cozy, and let's watch our first story.
The Lover's Lane.
It was summer. Everyone was out of school. The weather was perfect for a date that night. People hardly venture outdoors anymore, but back in 1935, it was all the couple could get away with. Coming up with a good excuse to leave the house, and more importantly the parents at home, was the hardest part. But fabricating a lie was Susan's strong suit. Oh, Rachel's having some girls over to listen to the radio program. Rachel wasn't having any girls over, but Susan was planning on listening to the radio show, just in Brad Butney's car. When Susan got in Brad's 35 Speedster hidden around the block, she knew her parents wouldn't know, and Brad and her could have the whole night to themselves. They drove the car up to Lover's Lane, the hotspot for swooning teens, a cul-de-sac on the hillside overlooking the town, secluded from everyone, romantic. Susan kissed Brad, and he kissed back. He turned on the car radio to set the mood. It was going so smoothly, and she was just about ready to give herself to him, when the radio scratched, from soft swaying tunes to an abrupt alert. This is an emergency announcement. Earlier this evening, a crazed murderer escaped from the mental asylum in Westbrook. Police are warning citizens to be on their guard. The escaped patient is armed and dangerous, wielding a metal hook. Please be cautious and on the lookout for any suspicious characters. Susan was not the type to believe in everything she heard, but she was also not the type to ignore sound warning. Suddenly, it was time to go. Susan put Brad's keys into the ignition. Brad reached his arms around her. "Don't be silly over that nonsense. Just lock the doors," she said. Brad obeyed. They finished. It was wonderful. Susan slipped her underwear back on as Brad started the car and took them home. They both sat in a blissful silence as the car pulled onto her street. It slowed to a stop and Brad graciously exited the driver's seat, making a gleeful stride to open Susan's door. He suddenly stopped, right there in front of the door, in front of Susan's house. "What are you doing?" she whispered. Brad was silent. He stood, frozen in his place. Susan was done with the pleasantries and opened the door, ready to go inside to bed, but she turned and froze as well. Brad knew what he was looking at, and Susan did too. The silver knob aligned with the window of the door was pushed in, locked, but the door handle, the silver beam pocketed with the metal shield of the door, had something in it. Something that still stood out to them both today. Buried in the door handle, hanging like a loose washer of a screw, was a bloody silver hook. They never went back to Lover's Lane.
Whew, that was freaky.
And also terrifying.
But I wonder if there's a story that could top it.
Ooh, don't say that, because you know what? There just might be.
Two dormmates in college were in the same science class. The teacher had just reminded them about the midterm the next day when one dormmate, let's call her Julie, got asked to this big bash by the hottest guy in school. The other dorm mate, Meg, had pretty much no interest in going, and being a diligent student, she took notes on what the midterm was about. After the entire period of flirting with her date, Julie was totally unprepared for her test, while Meg was completely prepared for a major study date with her books. At the end of the day, Julie spent hours getting ready for the party, while Meg started studying. Julie tried to get Meg to go, but she was insistent that she would study and pass that test. Julie finally gave up, using the excuse that she would cram in homeroom the next day. Julie went to the party and had the time of her life with her date. She headed back to the dorm around 2 a.m. and decided not to wake Meg. She went to bed nervous about the midterm and decided she would wake up early to ask Meg for help. She woke up and went to wake Meg. Meg was lying on her stomach, apparently sound asleep. Julie rolled Meg over to reveal Meg's terrified face. Julie, concerned, turned on the desk lamp. Meg's study stuff was still open and had blood all over it. Meg had been slaughtered. Julie, in horror, fell to the floor and looked up to see, written on the wall in Meg's blood, "Aren't you glad you didn't turn on the light?"
Story of a massacre. Makes me want to stab something white and fleshy.
What if we heard a story about a monster in a closet? Does that give you any culinary ideas?
I don't know, but most things make me hungry.
We'll see if this satisfies your hunger.
I woke up feeling a presence standing beside my bed, jolting me out of my sleep. It was my son, and it was 2:38 a.m. "Dad, there's something in my closet. I'm scared." My wife rolled over at the sound of his voice. "What's wrong, honey?" she said, half asleep. "Closet monster, apparently," I said. "Oh, that's new," my wife said. "Come here, honey. Your dad will check it out. Come sit on the bed next to Mommy." I got up from the bed slowly and stretched. My son slid under the covers next to my wife, and I saw her drifting back to sleep. I said to her, "Sure you don't want to come along? It may take two of us to take this thing down." "No, you have this, babe. I believe in you," she said with a sly smile. "And if you don't make it back, well, you were a pretty good husband." I laughed and headed out of the room. My son's room was upstairs on the opposite side of the house, so up the stairs I went and made my way closer. The door to his room was wide open, but the closet doors, which you could see from the hallway, were closed. About 5 feet out in the hallway, I actually started to hear something coming from the closet, an intermittent hum. I slowed my pace a little at hearing it. My first thought was it was perhaps a tablet or other device under a pile of clothes, playing some loud noise over and over. Whether it was or not, I got a lot more cautious and picked up a bat that was laying beside my son's dresser. With bat in hand, and after a deep breath to calm down, I grabbed the knob and turned it. As the door opened, I saw that I was at least correct about the noise coming from under clothes. A huge pile was stacked in the back corner, and the noise, much louder with the door open, emanated from it. The clothes were shifting slightly as the noise rang out. With the door open, I could tell it was a human voice. A child. I gripped the bat with white-knuckle force, and I started pulling the clothes away from the pile. Then I saw the source. But what? Impossible. It was my son, tied up with a gag in his mouth. Tears streamed down his face. His face was beet red. I ripped the gag away. He took a deep breath in, then screamed, "It wants Mom."
Well, that's about all I can take for the night.
I agree. It's getting cold out here anyways.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and call it a night, but you guys still have some business to do.
That's right. Comment on the video and let us know which one of these freaky fictions had you most creeped out.
And stay tuned for part 2, coming soon.
Keep an eye out.
And we will hold on to the other one.
Thanks for watching, guys. We want to give a big thanks to the people that helped us with this episode, and you should check out their channels. Look for bonus stories in our extras playlist, also read by fellow YouTubers. Stay out there.